let's take a look at using a displacement tool called Serpent. It's over in Layout, and we'll start in Modeler so we can build an object that we can work with. I'm just going to come over to Create, Box, and I'm going to create a flat shape that has some segments in it. Okay? And I'm actually going to make it just a little bit longer, just for fun. Okay? And there we go. So we're going to use this over in Layout. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and we'll just call this Serpent 001. And let's fire it over to Layout, send object to Layout. Here we go. And just so that they're not in the way, I'm going to go over to the Scene Editor and hide and lock the camera and light. Okay, and we're going to build a quick animation with this. So I'm going to come to the top view. We'll start here. And this is so that we can take advantage of the displacement tool. So I'm going to come over to frame 10, maybe move it up here a little bit, frame 20, frame 30. This is going to win me an animation award, I tell you what. So 40, I'm just trying to get a basic motion path. It's really not going to win me an award, but it'll look cool when we're done here. Okay, and frame 60. And actually what I'm going to do is come out to frame 90 and just come back over here. Let's go look in the perspective window, and let's dress this up just a little bit. I'll move it up, come over to frame 30, move it up, so we can get some dips and turns and things like that. And that'll work. Okay, I actually want my animation to start at around frame 10, but we're going to go ahead and use 0 to 10 just as a warm-up. Okay, now before we hop over to Serpent, I want to, and you know what, just so that everybody can see this, I'm going to hop over to the surface editor, and we'll turn smoothing double-sided on, and for color, let's just make it bright green. I just want to make sure that we're seeing it here. Okay. Now before we use Serpent, I'm going to go ahead and look at two other tools real fast just so we can kind of get a comparison. With the object selected, I'm going to hit P for properties. Let's move that up here. Okay. And under Deform, Add Displacement, let's start with the older tool called Lazy Points. And Lazy Points, there are no options. It's kind of all or nothing. So what happens is that the points become lazy the further they get from the pivot point. So this is great for streamers and things like that. See how it trails behind and then it catches up. Okay, we are losing the shape though. It's no longer the same length. It stretches it out. Okay, and like I said, there are no options, though this is a really useful tool. You can get in there and get it done real fast just by applying it, but it might not be the look we're going for. I want to maintain the length. So I'm going to turn that off. I'll just keep it there. It doesn't matter. I've deactivated it. So then we have Inertia, and Inertia actually has options. If I just scrub through, nothing's happening, okay, which is kind of boring. But if I change the lag rate, let's just do 0.25, you can see that it lags behind, okay, and it looks a lot like Lazy Points. Now I can always shrink the lag rate down. Okay, and I can shrink it down to the point where it's going to lag behind, but I could get it to the point where it pretty much keeps its length, but it is going to change the length a little bit. And if you look, it's kind of trying, just like Lazy Points, it's trying to conform to the motion path, but it's not really conforming as much as I'd like it to. So what we'll use is what I mentioned earlier, which is Serpent. So I'll deactivate this by clicking off the check mark here, and then we'll go find Serpent. So we've got it right here. Okay. Now it does have options. It lets you know when the start frame and when the end frame is. We can change this to 90 if we'd like, and you can pick the alignment axis. I'm going to use Z because we start traveling down the Z. Okay, and hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and close this for right now because we've got our options. Now the thing to know, when it first gets started, it can be a little choppy. That's why I said I'm going to go ahead and just use the first 10 frames as a warm-up. You can kind of see it getting choppy here. Let me Let me zoom in just a little bit. Okay, but the nice thing about this is it's keeping its length. Okay, it's not changing the length as it goes, and if you notice, it's conforming to the path. Okay, and that's the look that I want for this. So Serpent is really useful for keeping the length and really conforming the object to the motion path. Okay, now we could stop there because that's pretty much what Serpent does, but what I'm going to do is, why don't we take advantage of this setup. I just wanted to rotate this around because from a certain angle it looked like this was losing its length, and I wanted to show that it actually wasn't. So while we have this set up, why don't we go ahead and kind of add some objects to this. So I'm going to hop over to Modeler, and in layer 2 let's just build some boxes. So I'm going to get rid of, I'm using the down arrow key, and I'm going to get rid of those extra segments. And let's just say that this is going to be the main object that I want to use. Okay, we'll put that here, and let's queue, and let's just call these carts, and we'll make them blue just so that they stand out. Okay, and copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. I could clone these. I could array, rectangular array. I could do all kind of, I'm just going to copy and paste, and I think that'll work for me. Okay, S for save. Let's synchronize over to layout. Come over to layout, and those boxes are there. They're not moving with it. I'm going to make sure that parent and place is off. Hit M for motion options, and I'm going to parent layer 2 to layer 1. Actually, I have layer 1 selected, which I need to have layer 2 selected, and now I'll parent it to layer 1. Okay, and now we can see that they're moving with it, but they're not really conforming to the motion path, which is what I want. So what I'll do is I'll come over to layer 1, P for properties, come over to the dynamics tab, add dynamic, cloth. We're not going to add cloth dynamics, we're just going to use cloth effects to come over to file, and we're going to scan the motion. So right now it's scanning through the timeline, and it's recording the placement for every point on every frame. There we go. And we'll just save this off as Serpent 2. Okay. And now that I've got that scanned, what that allows me to do is come over to layer 2 where those boxes are, deform, add displacement, and we'll choose hard link, effects hard link. Okay. So those boxes are going to use, let's go ahead and close this down so we can take a look. They're going to use the motion from its parent. So we could use Serpent to do a little roller coaster there, and the boxes are going to conform, but they're not going to deform. They're going to conform to the motion path, but they're going to stay rigid. Okay, it's as if I animated each one of those boxes. Okay, let's do one more thing while we go ahead, while we have this set up. We'll go back over to Modeler. We'll go to layer 3, and I'm going to put layer 1 in the background. Let's make a box, something like this. Let's call this snake. We'll make it red. I'm going to subdivide it with Shift D metaform. This will be the head of the snake. This is going to be a real quick snake. Size it down a little bit. E. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use E for extender plus. Let's go into full screen here. And for each one of these segments, I'm going to E, and I'm just moving it into place. E. I don't have to match each segment, but each segment is where it's going, where it's bending on the motion path. So I'll just go ahead and make a segment for each one. Just hitting E and then moving. The cool thing about Extender Plus is that I can use Extender Plus and still have the Move tool or any tool active, which makes it pretty nice. Okay. Now that I have that, it looks more like a thermometer. I'm going to go ahead and just use taper. I'm going to just dress this up just a little bit. So I'm going to taper that in. Okay. Now it looks like a martini stick, but we'll call this our snake. And with that made, S for save, I'm going to synchronize layout, come over to layout, and there's our snake. And just like before, I'm going to grab layer 3, M for motion options, and the parent, I'm going to make layer 1. Okay, now those boxes are going to kind of get in the way, but I don't want to remove them. So I'm just going to go to my scene editor, and for layer 2, I'm going to hide those. So we don't need to see it, but they're actually still there, and they're still linked and animating. So now all we need to do is attach this. Now we don't need to rescan because we've already got that. It's already reading that MDD file that was created. So I'm going to go over to Object, Properties. Let's go to Layer 3, Deform. Now instead of Hard Link, which would keep that object rigid, I'm going to use Effects Metal Link. Okay, and now it's going to conform. So now I've got that little snake. Or a martini stick, but we'll call it a snake. So we've got the snake, and it's conforming to the path. So a way that we can, really, it's called Serpent. We can use Serpent to animate this serpent, this snake. Now we don't need to use a low-res object and use MetaLink to drive it, but it's much faster. If you know, you can block in your animation, get the exact motion that you want, and then once you're happy with it, why not go ahead and just either replace the object. So you could just do a items, replace object with, and replace that green sliver that we have, that green little flat poly. We could replace it with the snake, but what I would do just to make things much quicker and faster is I would just go ahead and use MetaLink. It's an easy tool to use, and it allows you to use a low-res object to drive a high-res object.